And now, our story continues to continue. The following is based on actual events, except for the parts that we fictionalized. The rest, though, totally true. Several weeks after Rodney Smith of Watch It Played put Chaz in charge and then disappeared on vacation, along with his fellow staff members Matthew Jude and Monique and Naveen, everyone arrived back home, safe and sound. So, yeah, mystery solved. Now I guess we can move on to...
Except now, Chaz is missing.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Chaz is missing. And technically, he's still in charge of the channel until he signs ownership back over to me.
Well, where could he be?
I checked his office, and his jacket, wallet, passport, and my car keys are all missing too.
Sheesh. First he puts the channel $47,000 in debt, and now this? Did he at least leave a message or something?
Yeah. He left behind his game picks for the month with a note that says, "Don't worry."
Very worrisome.
Yeah, it worries me whenever he says that.
At least this means we can still count down the 10 board games that the Watch It Played crew is excited about this month. These are games on our radar. Oh, wait a second. Okay, I just got an email from Chaz with a link to download a video message. Okay, while I download it, we can discuss Rodney's first game pick of the month, the card-driven solitaire game, Witchcraft.
And that's Witchcraft with an exclamation point. There are 5 different games named Witchcraft on BoardGameGeek, but only this one is spelled with an exclamation point. 3 of them do have colons, 1 has a hedera, but none have a silent ampersand.
Why don't you tell us how the game, how it plays?
I really have no idea. I spent all morning researching board game punctuation.
Lead a coven of witches in a fantasy world where both magic and monsters are real. Witchcraft's hide and reveal mechanism is built on the same system introduced in Resist.
Also spelled with an exclamation point.
Yep, sure is. Witchcraft requires players to decide whether using their magic to defeat evil is worth the risk of being imprisoned for it.
Which leads to another interesting aspect of this upcoming single-player card game, the inclusion of a jury. As a player, you'll have to convince the villagers that you're actually on their side. Otherwise, your witches will get thrown in jail. Now, the design team behind Witchcraft, with an exclamation point, is David Thompson, Roger Tankersley, and Trevor Benjamin, who have all collaborated in different twosomes for previous games that I've enjoyed, and now all 3 of them are assembling to conjure up Witchcraft. So it's no wonder it's packing such powerful punctuation.
Oh, and Chaz's video message has finished downloading, so now we can see the message he's been trying to send to us.
Hi there. Well, if you're watching this message, it can really only mean one thing. I am dead serious about finding a way to earn back the $47,000 in debt, minus $10 for lunch, that Watch It Played recently incurred. Somehow. Very mysteriously. It's impossible really to know how it happened, and nobody can really be held accountable. Regardless, my quest towards regaining our channel's financial stability begins now with a word from the first sponsor that helped make this episode possible, Call of Duty the board game by Arcane Wonders, coming to Kickstarter on August 1st. Call of Duty, the board game, brings the acclaimed Call of Duty experience to tabletops, immersing players in intense competitive combat. Play on authentic Call of Duty maps, choose from operators like Ghost Riley or Captain Price, and build a custom combat deck with your own signature items and tactics. Each round, make tough choices as you secretly plan your actions. Will you boldly engage the enemy head-on, or perhaps attempt to outmaneuver them? Or maybe just start lobbing grenades through the window and hope for the best. Either way, the game's quick and deadly combat will result in some explosive surprises and explosive explosions. So get ready for Call of Duty the board game by following the link in this video's description and be among the first to be notified when its Kickstarter launches on August 1st. And reserve a demo of the game at Gen Con 2023. Now that is explosive news. And now, if you'll excuse me, I must heed my own Call of Duty and continue my fundraising quest.
He definitely used a certitude point at the end of that last sentence. Ooh, a whole chapter on the secrets of the semicolon.
Monique and Naveen recently returned from their recreational recess to share their first pick of the month, the anachronistic adventure, Anachrony. A time-tampering 2-tiered worker placement game in which players utilize time rifts in order to reach back to earlier turns to supply their past selves with resources. But don't let your chrono manipulations cause a paradox, or your chances of preventing the looming cataclysm will be diminished even further. Here's why this dynamic duo is making time for Anachrony this month.
I really enjoy the idea of borrowing resources from your future ancestors and kind of this time travel loan mechanic in this game. I'm also very interested in the several different expansions for Anachrony, which I heard change it up quite a bit.
We also warmly welcome Matthew back from his recent tremendous trip to Taiwan, which you should watch all of his vlogs about it. Go check it out. It's called Yes Land. He will be discussing his first game pick of the month, Disney Lorcana, a trading card game that features Disney characters in both original and reimagined art styles that live in an all-new world with unique and magical gameplay. The players, known as Illumineers, are powerful sorcerers who assemble Disney characters spanning all of Disney history.
The rules to this game are now online, and I'm very excited. Actually, hold on, sorry, I've got a message. Psst, Matthew, can I borrow $47,000 minus $10 for lunch? My hope is that Disney Lorcana will be a great game with a similar feel to Magic the Gathering. That may be a tall order, but even if it comes close, I mean, Marvel Snap showed me that there's room in my life for more lifestyle type games. And a game with potentially a lower barrier to entry is something I can certainly get on board with. Time will tell if that's actually how Disney Lorcana will pan out, but I'm on a quest of my own to find out.
And I've been on a quest of my own to finally try the game. That's my first pick of the month, The Quest for El Dorado, which I've heard my friends talk about literally for years. And now it has a new edition coming out that I got to play. Finally. This newest edition of the game features original artwork from Vincent Dutrait.
And no punctuation in its title.
In The Quest for El Dorado, expedition leaders journey into the jungle in search of the legendary land of gold. Each player assembles and equips their own team, hiring a handful of helpers, all of them with one goal in mind: reach the Lost City's golden border first and claim all its riches for themselves. But unfortunately, the Lost City of Gold is just a myth, and we know that only a fool would set out to discover its legendary riches. Oh no. Rodney, you don't think Chaz is out digging for the Lost City of El Dorado, do you?
I doubt it. He didn't take his treasure hunting shovel with him.
Regardless, if Chaz is looking to solve ancient puzzles, he'd have better luck answering the ancient riddle of the Sphinx, which is featured in my second pick of the month, the new edition of Santorini, Riddle of the Sphinx, a cooperative expansion for 2016's Santorini that adapts the competitive experience into an ongoing adventure comprised of a series of scenarios called riddles that players navigate together. This Riddle of the Sphinx version caught my attention because it reintroduces a competitive strategy game as a cooperative puzzle, and that transformation is fascinating to me. It makes me wonder, what other systems could Santorini be adapted to?
Was that a rhetorical question?
I guess it was.
I thought I sensed the percontation point at the end of that sentence.
Speaking of people who keep pestering me with unhelpful things, I'm receiving another message from Chaz who says, he found it? Wait, could Chaz have actually just discovered the Lost City of Gold?
They said that I was a fool to search for it. They said it was impossible, but after exploring far and wide, I have just discovered the long-hidden land free of any human presence, filled with priceless discoveries never encountered before. Yeah, that's right. I found a copy of the set collection card game Vivarium, the very first game on my radar this month, which takes place in a deep subterranean cavern teeming with exotic life, unknown plants, and colossal creatures. This is where Paula usually provides a summary of the game.
Vivarium is designed to be an efficient and tense card collection game, which also incorporates unique dominoes into its gameplay. Each turn, players use dominoes to create coordinates that allow them to build their card collection. After 7 rounds, the player that has successfully completed their objectives and collected the greatest creatures wins the game.
In some ways, Vivarium here reminds me of a different take on one of my all-time favorite games, Garden Dice, from 2012. They're both set collection games that require players to manipulate grid coordinates in order to obtain items and take actions. But where Garden Dice uses dice to determine the coordinates available to interact with on a player's turn, Vivarium here uses keen little dominoes to navigate its grid of cards containing a variety of creatures, helpful equipment, and scientific objectives to complete. It's been over a decade since Garden Dice was developed, so I'm interested to see how the approach to a coordinate-based set collection system may have evolved over that time, which is why I'm glad to have discovered a copy of this game right here.
So you haven't Been searching for the lost city of gold?
Lost City of Gold? Huh, I didn't even bring my treasure hunting shovel with me. Besides, a much easier way to dig ourselves out of debt is by mentioning the other sponsor that helped make this episode possible, Crossbows and Catapults from Restoration Games. It is finally time for the nostalgic return of 1983's Crossbows and Catapults, brought to you by the designers of Fireball Island, Curse of Volcar, Return to Dark Tower, and Thunder Road Vendetta. This official restoration of the game unlocks a new level of creativity, and the Crossbows and Catapults themselves have been completely re-engineered. Gone forever are the rubber bands that powered previous pieces. No, now, new spring-powered components improve on consistency, precision, and their longevity. So follow the link in this video's description to be ready when the Crossbows and Catapults Kickstarter campaign launches this month and experience this classic game in a whole new way. I'm cold.
Well, my expectations for what Chaz is up to have been completely warped. Nearly as warped, in fact, as the Galaxy's Edge in the game Warp's Edge. An admittedly weak segue, but it's a strong selection by Monique and Naveen. Warp's Edge is a single-player bag-building game in which a rookie space pilot becomes stranded far away from their fleet, lost and alone. With resources running low, an enemy fleet and mothership looms in the distance. Will you be able to make it to the warp gates that will take you home before your ship succumbs to alien laser fire?
Continuing my adventures in solo gaming, Warp's Edge was another title that came highly recommended. I'm really interested in checking this one out because of its bag-building token mechanic as well as its space theme. It sounds very puzzly and really high stress, as you have to race against the timer of the game to complete your mission.
And Monique and Naveen aren't the only ones pondering being lost in space, because Rodney's second pick of the month is Demon Ship, a single-player, micro-tabletop game in which the sole surviving crew member of a spaceship struggles to escape an interdimensional portal. But diminishing fuel and oxygen levels are the least of their concerns, as demonic creatures prowl every corner of the ship. Now, survival will require escaping before it all goes to hell. Literally.
If there was ever a situation that called for an acclamation point, it's that one.
Actually, in this case, it would be a double point, not an acclamation point, but sure.
I really enjoy smaller scale skirmish miniatures games, but I don't often have time to play them. That said, here we have something I haven't seen before, a micro skirmish game that takes place on a small grid using minimal terrain and only a few miniatures. I'm very interested to see what kind of design choices were made to constrain the game to this size. I'm also just excited to see innovation continuing to happen in this corner of the hobby. I'm hopeful that, even with its small scale, there will still be opportunities for cinematic moments in this game in the vein of Aliens or maybe something similar to a micro Space Hulk.
And Matthew also has his eye on a small box with big possibilities. His second selection of the month, vegetable stock.
Not only a fun game, but also a delicious pun.
That's right, Matthew, because you play this card game at a table, a veggie table.
Oh yeah, that actually is clever, but that's not actually the pun that I was...
Oh, because during the game you're stocking the cards you're looking for.
Okay, that's not quite as clever, and also isn't the one that...
Because you're stocking up on cards.
Well, technically, correct, but that's true for many card games.
Because the cards depict various fruits.
What? No, that's not even a pun. Look, it's a stock market game featuring vegetables as the commodities being traded. That's why it's called vegetable stock. It's a vegetable stock market game.
So how are the fruit cards used?
There are no fruit cards.
What about in Fabled Fruit?
Oh yeah, that game has fruit cards.
Fabled Fruit is a completely different...
Fabled Fruit's title isn't a pun either.
Right, that's why we're talking about vegetable stock.
The game where you stock the cards you're looking for.
All right, I'm going back to Taiwan.
Whoops, Matthew's gone. It appears we have a break in the action.
We could really use an asterism here.
Look, if you really want to know, Vegetable Stock is a remake of a simple card game about vegetable economics.
Oh, was this originally called Small Farmer?
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Each round, a number of cards is displayed on the table. Players take turns moving one of the cards to their own pile. The last card not chosen determines which vegetable stock price goes up, but if a price goes over 6, it drops back down again and the cycle ups again. After 6 rounds, players multiply the number of each vegetable they've collected by its stock price, and the highest score wins. Vegetable stock.
Oh, and that's where the pun comes from.
Yeah.
Because this small box card game was originally called Small Farmer. Small and small.
That's a good pun.
That's more of a metaphor.
You know, I just wonder if I could make that last train to Taipei.
And while Matthew steps out to search for a copy of Small Farmer, I'm searching for a message from Chaz about his last pick of the month, but I'm not seeing anything.
That's because I am back!
He's back!
Who's back?
Chaz is back.
What about Chaz's back?
Chaz, I think there's something on your back.
Yes, I have returned to announce that I have successfully gotten Watch It Played out of debt.
That is big news. And what was on your back?
The game that inspired how to get our channel back in the black is also the second one that's blipping on my radar this month. Yucatan!
In Yucatan, leaders of an ancient Mayan city strive to win the favor of the gods by sending warlords to capture enemies, increasing their might with every season of the sacred calendar. And then they sacrifice their prisoners to the Mayan gods to ensure their dominance. But the gods are fickle, and each sacrifice must be more glorious than the last, requiring players to find a balance between their people's prosperity and achieving supernatural glory.
Yucatan caught my eye because it's by the same designer of Kemet and Kemet Blood and Sand, and has also been described as an extension of the pseudo-series of games that includes Kemet, Cyclades, and Inish, all games that have long been spoken about favorably. People like them. So, I'm very interested to see what Yucatan brings to the table, especially with how it requires making a sacrifice in order to make progress.
And how did that inspire you to save the channel?
It made me realize that sometimes you have to sacrifice something you love in order to save it. And that's why, as my final act while still in charge, I saved Watch It Played by sacrificing it and selling it to another company. What?
I'm saying while punctuating this proclamation with an interrobang, which communicates a mixture of both astonishment and disbelief.
Say hello to Watch It Played's new parent company, Party Lemmings Media Holdings Incorporated.
I'm definitely gonna miss that train.
You can say hero. It is appropriate in this context.